and we're talking about one of your favorite topics. And it's really how I started out with integrative care, the science of supplements and how they impact mental health, mental wellness, and of course, physical health too. So let's talk about supplements because you always have so many cool questions. Like everyone always messages me all about supplements, right? And let's first start talking about the field of nutritional psychiatry, right? I don't normally like to give props to psychiatrists, but there's actually a field about how does nutrition impact mental health, and it's called nutritional psychiatry, and it's a growing field. I certainly predate that field. I've been doing integrative care and supplements and homeopathy since the early 90s. And if really you want to count my whole life, we've always used food as medicine. As the daughter of a of Italian immigrants, you fixed your problems with food, with healthy food, not emotional eating. So, as we talk about nutrients and the different forms, let's talk about the scientific evidence. So, you can go to my blogs, you can go to drroseann.com/my blogs. There's going to be some links in the show notes here, but there is a lot of research. I've collected a lot of research in my book. It's going to be okay. There's over 40 pages of research citations talking about natural solutions, but there is a lot of scientific evidence. And when we think about the nutrients that have probably the greatest scientific evidence related to mental wellness, and I always like to start with diet. The number one diet that is most evidence based for improving mental health symptoms is an anti-inflammatory diet. The most studied diet is a Mediterranean diet. So, always start with what are putting in your mouth and food wise. And that's of all ages. An anti-inflammatory diet, you're going to ask me a million questions like, oh, is this one better? Is this one? It's really what works for you. But let's talk about the scientific evidence related to supplements and dietary components, whether it's, homeopathy or teas or, because medicinal teas, that's when you steep it a certain amount and then it becomes medicinal, really have been used for a very long time. And even essential oils for centuries, right? So some of our most evidence-based supplements, right? What are the different types of supplements that really have been shown to clinically improve mental health? Well, I would be remiss if I wasn't talking about magnesium, right? And, our magnesium has L-threonate, it has glycinate, two that are clinically proven to, really support brain health. And L-threonate is one of the only form that crosses the blood-brain barrier. So, but things like vitamin D, vitamin C, vitamin E, different types of aminos like GABA, inositol. These are things that really can support mental health depending on what's going on. You know, is this a stress activated nervous, issue? Are you an adrenal failure and you need some adrenal support, right? Is there genetic components? What is going on? There's a right solution for you. But I mentioned the basics like vitamin D, magnesium, uh, B vitamins, but you have to be careful that you're taking, a methylated or the right form if you have a genetic variant that impacts how your body's utilizing the B vitamins. But these are things that have been shown. There's increasing research for things like saffron. I already mentioned GABA and different forms. So you always want to work with somebody, right? Because the brain chemistry and supplements are important, right? And so we always think about when our brain chemistry or the chemicals in our brain are not supporting mental wealth and mental health, then is this a genetic issue? Is it something that is interfering, right? Chronic stress. I already mentioned adrenal failure, hormone issues, situational stressors that are really impacting how your body's working. Have you moved yourself into this just complete stress activated, maybe state, or maybe your anxiety, depression, OCD have overtaken you. So there are certain supplements that better support brain chemistry, but these things should always be used with in conjunction with, if you have a clinical mental health issue, good therapist, right? Getting, therapy from a licensed therapist. If you're part of our calm brain community, you're utilizing lifestyle components, other natural solutions, whether it's neurofeedback or PEMF or meditation or yoga. You really need to take a full comprehensive approach to what you're putting in your mouth, your lifestyle, how you're managing stress, what are you saying in your mind, right? Because we have to be kind to our mind, but what are you doing, right? So different types of supplements. So we always think about, the basics, as I mentioned, but I also want to mention herbs, tinctures, and I did briefly mention teas. We don't talk enough about it. So I'm a huge fan of teas. I've been using medicinal teas for myself, for my children, even my pets for 3 decades. And you're like, "Your pets, your cat sitting down with you and having some tea?" No, but, like, I had a cat who actually had herpes that would affect her eye, and I would clean her eye with a tea that, called Eye Bright, and then of course, it's called Eye Bright. But there are teas from everything you can imagine, detox teas. Of course, I'm taking hormone teas now, and, my kids, at different points, I've given them chamomile if I want to settle them down. And the key to making a tea be medicinal is actually to cover it, let it steep covered for a minimum of 7 to 10 minutes. You can steep it longer, but that steeping of that length makes that become medicinal because of the strength, right? And then I often don't talk about homeopathy. Homeopathy it's based on a belief that like versus like kind of neutralizes things, and that they put a small amount of the antigen. I am very responsive, as well as my whole family, into homeopathy. Common homeopathies that pretty much most people have seen would be like the teething tablets for babies, arnica cream. You're like, "Oh yeah, Dr. Rowe." Well, there's all different types. So there's homeopathy for a situational issue like your teething, or there is actually what they call constitutional remedies. So there are a variety of things. And then herbs, right? So herbs have become increasingly popular. I mentioned saffron, that's an herb. You're hearing a lot about it for depression and ADD, right? And, again, this is just to expand your mind about what are these different types of supplements and herbs, teas, essential oils. You always want to work with a practitioner and find out exactly what's, best for you. Certainly, some of the more basic ones, we should all be on a D, we should all be on a zinc, we should all be on magnesium. You always want to work with your practitioner to find out what's the right form, what's the right dosage. But I would say that most people are deficient in those things, and our neurodivergents in particular are often deficient in magnesium and zinc elementals. Zinc very much affects your appetite, affects your attention. Pretty rare that I'm not seeing people be deficient in, again, zinc, magnesium, and vitamin D, especially if you live in one of the cold states, or you, like most people or kids today, are spending on average 7+ hours a day on their devices. Yes, 7.25 hours or more. So we need more, we need more support. But how do these, supplements support our nervous system, right? Let's talk about some of the case studies and supplement, success stories that I love to talk about. So first of all, supplements address nutrient deficiencies, right? So let's talk about magnesium, because it's very common for people to be deficient in magnesium. So we require magnesium for over 300 chemical processes in the body. This belief that it's upwards of 600. So it's needed as a helper to make a variety of different, things happen within the brain and body, right? We need it for neurotransmitters. We need it for hormones. I mean, there's just too many things to listen. Go back and listen to the series on magnesium. So we can't possibly eat enough nutrient dense food. I don't even eat enough nutrient dense food to keep up with my magnesium levels. So I take my multi mag brain formula. I take a magnesium bath. If I'm traveling, I bring some citrate just to avoid constipation. And you can get my magnesium at drroseann.com/magnesium. And, here's a recent case I had of somebody who had their son was doing neurofeedback with us, doing great, still impulsive. Improved. And the mom started our multi-mag brain formula, which has the glycinate and the L-threonate. And she contacted me and she said, "Is it possible that in a week and a half that it would take away his impulsivity?" She said, "Clearly, he was nutrient deficient." And she said all of his excessive motor activity, that hyperactivity, the touching, the not being able to sit in a seat, all normalized in that short amount of time. Now, this is a unique situation and it happened for this kid, and they were doing a lot of other things at the same time. Not eating perfectly, by the way, but definitely improved the diet. And was calming the nervous system, working on parenting, and then added magnesium, and that happened, right? Which is incredible. I can think of another time where I was working with somebody who was very food restrictive to the point where they were really only eating the chicken nuggets and shakes. So we could get shakes in, had to be plain. It couldn't sneak anything in. And we tried a lot of different things. We, certainly worked on calming the nervous system. And then finally I was like, look, it's not moving. Let go to the doctor, get your nutrient levels checked. And certainly they were very low in zinc, which is something I had recommended right from the get-go. So they added the zinc, and within about 4 to 8 weeks, it was quite dramatic, the change. So, we were able to just increasingly add a couple of new foods at first, only, in the first few weeks, a couple new foods every week. And then it started expanding and expanding and expanding. And they eventually just became not even a normal eater, like an exceptional eater. And it was all because they were nutrient deficient. And, with that, and putting the right nutrients in and balancing out her brain and body, we were able to behaviorally address some of the things that were holding her back and sort of feeding her anxiety too, because anxiety was a big part of it. So I love to talk about success stories because I have been graced with the privilege of supporting thousands of people over these 3 decades. There is a lot of science behind nutrients, and feel free to read the blogs. If you're watching or you're listening, please share your success stories because it's what motivates me to do more of these things. And if you are looking for magnesium, feel free to go to our website, drroseann.com, magnesium, and order it today. It's amazing. It tastes great. It tastes like lemonade. It has such a potent amount of magnesium in it that we had to really make it incredibly palatable. And it's seasoned, it's flavored with monk fruit to make it sweet. So let us know how supplements are helping you. And if you're looking to start somewhere, I would definitely encourage you to start with one of the 3 most nutrient deficient areas that adults are facing. It's magnesium, zinc, and vitamin D.